2 that Allah Himself describes and says, "Inna makanna lahu fil ardi." When they ask you about Dhul-Qarnayn, the first thing you should tell them, the Prophet is being told, is that we gave him a lot of stability in the land. We furnished him with a lot of resources in the land and made him stable. Now this is directly in contrast with Ashab Al-Kahf, who are making hijrah because they are actually mazlumeen. They're the ones that are they're victims. They're also powerless. They don't know what to do. The only thing they have at their disposal is to beg Allah for some kind of way out. وَهَيِّئْ لَنَا مِنْ أَمْرِنَا رَشَدًا. That's their situation. فَأْوُوا إِلَى الْكَهْفِ. Go find some refuge in the cave. That's their situation. They're desperate. But on the flip side, the language Allah uses for Dhul-Qarnayn is actually the same language Allah used for Yusuf alayhi salam. Yusuf alayhi salam was given tamkeen in the land in Surah Yusuf. And that tamkeen eventually led to what? Rulership. And essentially he became the prime minister, if you will, the minister of finance and budgetary affairs for all of Egypt, one of the greatest empires of the world at the time. And the same phrase is now being used for Dhul-Qarnayn. So Allah is telling us that not only does He sometimes test people with nothingness, that where the only choice they have is to leave the world behind, leave money behind, leave their family behind, leave wealth and status behind. But other times Allah has a different kind of expectation from His slaves. He doesn't expect the same thing from everybody. Sometimes Allah has given people a position of power, a position of wealth, a position of political strength, in this case political strength also, and all kinds of means, resources that they can accomplish something amazing. So Allah says, وَآتَيْنَاهُ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ سَبَبًا. Not only did we give him stability, we gave him all kinds of resources. And sabab is an interesting word, without getting too deep. One of its meanings is you have something by which you can do other things. You can reach other things, right? So it's nice that you have a computer, but you can use that computer to actually start an online business. You can do other things with it, you understand? So it becomes a means to an end. It's nice that you have a truck, but now you started a delivery service. You're putting it to work and you're doing more things with it. So Allah didn't just give him stuff. He gave him stuff that can be used to do other things, to resources that build further resources, okay? So from this already, I'm starting to think as a believer that Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't just give me things. He doesn't just give me something to enjoy. But the things that Allah has given me, whether they're material things, and material things could be like your car, your home, those could be material things. But sometimes Allah also gives us non-material things. For example, your creativity is a resource Allah gave you. Your ability, some of you are really good at mathematics. It's a resource Allah gave you, right? Some of you are really good at planning, and that's a resource Allah gave you. Some of you have the gift of really good presentation. There are others of you that get nervous in front of 2 people. You can't talk. There are some others of you can stand in front of a class of 20 students, and people will be confused who the teacher is. Is it you or the teacher? You're that confident. You're that good at presenting yourself. So there are resources that Allah has given you, and Allah has told us about Dhul-Qarnayn that He has given him all kinds of resources. Min kulli shay'in sababa. Ataynahu min kulli shay'in sababa. Now what this implies then is he's set up. His life is set up. He doesn't have to pursue anything more because he has all the resources he could want. And if Allah is describing that He's given him all kinds of resources, then he needs to just sit back and just say, Alhamdulillah, I have everything I need. But the next ayah is pretty surprising. Allah says, فَأَتْبَعَ سَبَبًا. Then he went in pursuit of yet even more resource. In other words, what Allah has given him has inspired, he's putting it to good work. He's doing something meaningful with it. And he realizes the talent and the resources Allah has given him, it is now inspiring him to expand the empire. Think even bigger. If what Allah gave me allowed me to accomplish this much, imagine if I accomplished even more, acquired even more, I could do even more. Now this sounds like, they have people pay good money to go to these expand your business seminars. In the early days of Bayyinah, somebody gave me the advice to go listen to these, some of these gurus that have these turn your million into 10 million seminars, right? And it's an industry, right? And they have this, let's have the billionaire mindset. Let's have this, this kind of entrepreneurial mindset. And I've been around those kinds of people. I've seen that environment. I've seen that mentality. And the thing about that is, you might think that what I'm saying is have that millionaire mindset. If you've got 10, go for 20, go for 30, think big. Think bigger than everybody else, right? And everybody sits there, and at the end of it, they have their own version of takbir. They go, yeah, and they clap or whatever. But here, we're learning about something much, much deeper, much deeper. And this is, if you do an analysis of all the people Allah mentions in the Quran that were given resources, good people that were given resources, 3 that prominently come to mind are Yusuf alayhi salam, who's given resources, he's given government, he's given authority, he's given position and status. Sulaiman alayhi salam is given government, position, authority, status. And it seems also Dhul Qarnain, government, position, authority, status. Dawood alayhi salam, these are a handful of figures that have been given a lot of resources at their disposal. And you have to do a careful look at what are they doing with those resources. These people create a positive impact that benefits everyone, not just Muslims. It benefits everybody. It the starvation that Yusuf alayhi salam saved Egypt from didn't just save the children of Israel, the believers, Yaqub alayhi salam and his family. It saved an entire nation from being starved, the vast majority of whom do not believe in Allah. The vast majority of whom do not believe in Allah. And yet, he was a rahmah to all of them. In other words, the prophets and the good people that were given resources learned to think about bringing about positive change globally. They thought huge. They thought about massive levels of impact. So if Allah has given you a talent, and Allah has given you an opportunity, and more importantly, if Allah has given you some degree of success, then your mentality becomes, how do I take this success and turn this into a global enterprise that can make other people successful, that can bring about a good change for others, that can create job opportunities in places where there are no good job opportunities, that can reform education in places where people are not getting a good education. There are things you can do to make the world, really the world, a better place. And then for someone who has the resources, one mentality is, man, if I get a good job and if I start making 6 figures, first thing I'm going to do is get this car right here. And this is the kind of house I'm going to get. And this is how many bedrooms it's going to have. And I'm going to have a swimming pool in the back. You watch. People are going to look at my swimming pool and they're going to faint. Like you have this dream in your head about when you get the money, this is what you're going to have. But the mentality here is something else. When you reach that success, you're looking for the next milestone of success, not for yourself, not for the watch, not for the car, not for the house. You're looking at, man, the impact that we're going to make, the next horizon that we're going to conquer, the number of schools that we're going to open up, the village that's never even known what a hospital is about to get a hospital next year. By in 5 years, 100 hospitals in 100 different villages around the world. That's the kind of mindset that brings about remarkable change in the world, right? So he does this. فَأَتْبَعَ سَبَبًا. That's the inspiration we get from him. And what does he do with that? Kings and resources is a known thing in history. You don't have to be a PhD in history to know that empires go after resources, right? In the last century, empires went after oil. And the world looks the way it does because of it, right? We went after resources. The century before, empires went after agricultural societies and trade routes, right? And so much of, for example, India is carved by the British the way that it is because of trade routes, right? So that's the history of the world. This man has the resources, and now what he should be doing is looking at all the nations that have, ports, because ports are really important for trade, or trade routes, or minerals, resources, or an established empire that he can crush and take over. Maybe that, because that's what powers do, don't they? They engage in that kind of a power struggle. So we learn about his now superpower expedition. And his first expedition is, حتى إذا بلغ مغرب الشمس وجدها تغرب في عين حمئة. He keeps traveling west until he finds the sun sinking in muddy or murky water. Now, muddy water isn't a good resource. So he's ended up somewhere that is unknown, basically in the wilderness out there. It's not a developed part of the world. And he goes there and he doesn't find valuable resources, he finds mud. That's what he finds. And that's basically the end where he reaches, and he can see the sun setting there. And then all of a sudden, he discovers that he's not alone there. It's not empty wilderness. There are people that are not sophisticated, they're not developed, but they live in this area. They're unknown to him. And he gets exposed. Well, so he says, وَوَجَدَ عِنْدَهَا قَوْمًا. He found right by that water a group of people, new people. Now, what are powers, when they engage in new societies, immediately they see them as a threat. They see them as a threat. And they see them, if they don't see them as a threat, they see them as a resource that can be used in some way or the other. If you read Columbus's writings about what he said about the natives when he landed here, what he said about the Native Americans, it might shock you. He'll say, these are some of the kindest people I've ever met. They have no greed among themselves. They share everything. They share their meal with you. Boy, they would make some really good slaves. They won't even pick up a fight. Like, he literally, his eyes, in cartoons they show you, the eyes turn into dollar signs, right? He sees people, all he sees is someone to use. That's what he sees. Either you see an enemy that you can crush and take their land, or if they have no resources themselves to offer, then maybe they're the resource. We can enslave them like the Pharaoh enslaved. We could do that. We could turn into Pharaoh. Dhul Qarnain goes there. He doesn't know this culture. He doesn't know these people. So what do we learn? That sometimes in your pursuit of more resources, you might come across new people, new cultures. You might come across a new environment that you've never been in before. And when you come across those new people, you don't have to develop a hostile mentality. But also, you don't have to be gullible. I don't have to think, oh, no, I should give benefit of the doubt. These people mean me no harm. They might be feeding me because they're cannibals and they want me to fatten up before they cook me. That could be happening too. I don't know. I have no way of knowing if these people mean good or bad. So what did Allah give him at that point? When he meets people that he doesn't know, إِمَّا أَن تُعَذِّبْ وَإِمَّا أَن تَتَّخِذَ فِيهِمْ حُسْنًا. You can punish them, you have the power to do that. Or you could take some good from them. Or, you take a good approach towards them. And Dhul Qarnain takes this most intelligent approach. Among them, the people that are going to engage in criminal activity, I will deal with them like criminals should be dealt with. And among them that are doing well, that do good, then they're going to have the best from me. They're going to have a kind word from me. It's a really interesting approach. He's not saying, this is how I will deal with this nation. This is how I will deal with these people. These people are all the same. Muslims are very quick to point out that other people are bigoted towards Muslims. Man, these people hate Muslims. These people have these stereotypes against Muslims. Have you ever taken account of the kind of stereotypes we have about people, like Muslims? The stereotypes we make of other nations, other races? Man, you don't even spare people in your own country that come from a different village than you. The kind of stereotypes you have of them and generations of them. So you and I should be the last people to complain about the stereotypes that other people make. Especially when you don't know someone, wonder, oh, I knew this one guy from this place, he's like that, man, they're all like that. Oh, I know what they're like, because I know one case study, right? So we take, anecdotal examples, and we turn them into a formula, and now we know what that entire genetic form, the entire nation, the entire strand of humanity, we know exactly how they behave. They're all lazy. They're all this way. Oh, they're all going to cheat you in business. Oh, if you see that one, run the other way. He's from that nation? Oh, no. Those people you don't know. They're all crooks. Dhul Qarnain doesn't know these people. So he could just use, maybe he's been in wars before with others, because if you're expanding, you're going to get into wars. So it's a new people, so it's a new threat. I should just be hostile towards them. No, I'm going to do my investigation, and I'll find that they're just human like everybody else. They have good among them, they have bad among them. The good I will deal with in a good way, the bad I will deal with in a bad way. It's actually a pretty reasonable approach. And this approach, as basic as it sounds, is missing in most of our lives. It's actually missing. If you do an actual investigation of yourself and myself, and how we look at other people from the lens of race, religion, ethnicity, background, language, culture, right? When we put one of those glasses on, we prejudge somebody and assume what they're all about and whether or not they're friend or foe. And that's something that he's as an explorer and as someone who's going to make use of great resources, learns to understand. By the way, as time for khutbah wraps up, I also want to add here something else. Allah says He gave him all kinds of resources, right? And part of those resources, you know what it is? Making the right kinds of dealings with people. Because resources aren't just your intelligence, they aren't just your ability to expand or building your business empire. Those people that have built a business empire, if you know people that have expanded their business, they will tell you the hardest part is not finding real estate, the hardest part is not making the investment. That's not the hardest part. The hardest part is finding the right people. Always. 100% of the time. If you're running a store and you're like, I need to find somebody to run the cash, the hardest part is going to be finding the right people. And you cannot find the right people if you don't know how to do a proper investigation. أَمَّا مَنْ ظَلَمَ وَأَمَّا مَنْ آمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا. The man here, Ibham says, I don't know these people enough. I'm going to do my investigation before I know who's good and who's bad. Because by the way, when new rulers come into power, and they've taken over, the locals may have seen Zul Qarnain roll up with his entire military. They're like, oh, that's going to be trouble. So some of the more scheming politicians among them would have gone with some fresh food and put themselves into good books. So he sees them as a good guy, and all of a sudden he's the good one, and then they can turn him against some of the other locals that he has beef with. You understand? You can manipulate somebody very easily, and that's what people do, right? That's the challenge of the successful. So when he is coming to new places, he's not just making political alliances with corrupt leaders. He's not doing that. He's going to make his investigation and deal with people as they should be dealt with. You know, this is what he's doing. So there's some remarkable lessons in here that leadership, and if you know, people say, I just want to become a leader. No, are you making the most of the resources you have? You're not? Then don't talk about being a leader. What leadership have you and I demonstrated even over the things Allah has given us? وَأَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا جَعَلَكُمْ مُسْتَخْلَفِينَ فِيهِ in Surah Al-Hadid. In summary, what I wanted to share with you, actually one more lesson before I let you guys go. I think you'll benefit from it, and just something to think about throughout the week. How can this apply to you and me? How can this be something that, you know, gauges our view of how we conduct business and what we think about our future, right? So, skipping ahead, Dhul Qarnain comes to a place where people are not able to communicate with him at all. Barely able to get their point across to him, right? So he comes, obviously, ثُمَّ أَتْبَعَ سَبَبًا. This is a person that has traveled to different cultures. He's traveled to different places, unknown places. So he's come across new languages before. So this is a person of international knowledge, global knowledge. And as a result of that, he knows different kinds of cultures and civilizations. But now in his new exploration, he's come across a people whose language is so unknown, there's barely, you know, because for example, if you're speaking Urdu and you speak to somebody who speaks Farsi, there's some common words in between. If you're speaking Arabic and you speak to somebody who speaks Somali, there's some common language in between, some common vocabulary, because languages are impacted by one another. If you travel to Turkey, you hear a lot of Arabic words in their vocabulary, right? It just becomes part of a globalized language system. But these people, there's barely even any common vocabulary. لا يكادون يفقهون قولا. They're barely able to understand anything. So what does that mean? These people are cut off from the international world. They're, by the standards of the rest of the world, uneducated people. They don't even know how to build what? A dam. They don't know how to protect themselves from invaders that are coming, Ya'juj and Ma'juj that are coming. So somehow or the other, they're able to communicate this need to them. That these Ya'juj and Ma'juj come, could you build us a dam? Could you build us a barrier? Now, stop for a second. Dhul-Qarnayn, a ruler who's built a mighty empire, an empire strong enough that he can leave his capital and go around exploring himself, that's a pretty powerful, stable empire. Because when the king leaves town, the country might be in chaos. But Allah started by saying, مَكَّنَّا لَهُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. We gave him resources in the land. We gave him stability. So he's so stable that he can go out there in uncharted places, right? Now when he goes there and these people are asking him for help, he could just turn around and tell them, no. You don't tell me what help you need. I will tell you what you need. You don't tell me that you need a wall. I will tell you that you need a bridge instead, or you need this instead, or we'll just go to fight with them. And like he could educate, because what do you people know? You people can't even speak. You're going to tell me what services you need? I'm Zul Qarnain. What am I trying to get at? When you have education, knowledge, credentials, degrees, experience, when you have that, and you come to a new project, serve a new people, you are entering upon a new culture. You have to leave all the stuff you learned from before behind, and you have to be at the service of the people that you're trying to serve. And you have to actually listen to them. As uneducated as you think they are, they're pretty educated about their own needs. And they know their own culture well. And they know their own place well. So we have this top-down approach. By the way, the colonizer, European colonizers used to call it the white man's burden. They called it the white man's burden. What was that? That they have come to these brown cultures, these colored cultures. All of these people are primitive. They still make huts and do primitive farming. They don't have the machinery and the advancements that we've had, that we've been blessed with. So God has commissioned us, the whites, to make sure that the rest of these people rise up to civilization. Because otherwise these are almost animals. So we have this burden of bringing them to civilization. That's not the mentality of Dhul Qarnain. He's not coming to these people and then telling them, yeah, no, I'm going to tell you what you need. You don't tell me what I need. But he does realize that they're missing advancements in technology. They don't know how to build a wall. They don't know how to do it. Now, he could just say, okay, this is what you want from me. I'll build it for you. What does he do instead? No, I'll build it. Allah has given me resources. I'll build it. By the way, he introduced Allah to them also by just saying that. But interestingly, what does he say? He says, no, you're going to help me in this project. I'm not going to import labor from my country so that we suck all your money in building your country and then you go into debt to us. Right? Like what China's doing nowadays. Right? China's expanding all over the world. They bring their own labor force. They bring their own resources. They bring their own materials. They take ownership of it. And the nation that says, yay, we have a highway now. We have a huge hotel now. We have this now. And they're all in debt to China now. Right? That's what's happening around the world. Right? And actually, many parts of the US too. But what's happening? What happens with Zul Qarnain? He goes there. You guys need a wall? This is what it's going to cost you. No. Just bring me what resources do you have? You have hadid? So that's found locally here? Bring it. He's not carrying iron ore with him. That's a local resource. Let's make the most of your local resources, and let me show you how to do this engineering. So when it starts, because one day I will leave, and it's going to start showing cracks. You're going to have to repair this yourselves. He empowers the people. He educates the people. He helps them. He makes them build it with him. That's what he does. So empowerment does not make you weak, is my final value to share. If somebody came to you for help, if you're a medical student and you've done really well for yourself and you're already in residency and somebody's just starting out and they ask for your help and you look at them and say, but man, if I help him, then one day he's going to open up a clinic across the street from me and I'm going to lose patients. So I'm going to give him bad advice because I don't want future competition. No. Empowering someone else with what you've been given does not take away from your success. Does not take, if somebody comes to me and says, Ustad, what are some teaching tips? I'm like, man, I don't want to give him too many teaching tips because he might become a better teacher than me. Then what am I going to do? No, whatever you learn, give. It's not going to take Yoda's away by giving the best of your advice, giving the best of your knowledge to somebody else, empowering somebody else. In fact, that's the way to build real resources, because when you genuinely help somebody else with no strings attached, then Dhul Qarnain, this is what I'm leaving you with, Dhul Qarnain does not have to come back to these people and ask them to pay taxes or leave a military presence there to make sure they stay loyal to him. He doesn't have to do any of these things. You know why? Because An-nas abidul ihsan. People become enslaved to goodness. In other words, he did such a huge favor to them, not just by building this wall, but by educating them and empowering them, that they are loyal to him for life. He doesn't have to worry about them uprising against him or turning. No, in fact, he built resource. The greatest resource you can build is a human resource to win people over, right? Because you can have all the money in the world, and the more money you make, the more enemies you're making. You could do that, and many nations have done that before. Many business people have done that before. They build their empire, and the more they build, they keep making more and more enemies as they go, right? And even the employees that leave them hate them for life and make YouTube videos against them and stuff, right? And you know what that's going to do? Whatever source that is, whatever business that is bound to fail. It's bound to fail because it didn't win people over. But if you and I are here with whatever resources Allah has given us and we want something to carry on, to carry the goodness of it on, then we have to win people over. There's some timeless and absolutely incredible lessons embedded inside of this story. I encourage you to read and contemplate the story of Dhul-Qarnayn on your own, and have those conversations among each other, adults and even with the children. May Allah Azza wa Jal allow us to benefit from contemplating Allah's words, and may Allah Azza wa Jal make us of those that are of a source of goodness for us.